ever-prevalent quarterback carousel, the 49ers are at the top of the list. There's 2 quarterbacks on the roster. One is getting pinpointed to multiple teams around the NFL, and that's Jimmy Garoppolo. The other is the one that seems as if he is being stuck with the 49ers for the next few seasons. Obviously, he's on his rookie deal. That's Trey Lance. But the jury is out on Trey Lance, and I think some 49ers greats have weighed in on the subject. Well, why don't you give us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So 49ers legend, Pro Football Hall of Famer, all-time great Joe Montana was talking to Kevin Clark at The Ringer, talking about Trey Lance and joining the 49ers. And this is what Montana had to say about Garoppolo and Trey Lance. Montana said, "I think you keep Jimmy until you find somebody else. I don't think Trey's ready to play yet myself. And after talking to some of the players, it's one of those things that if you can keep Jimmy healthy, he plays well enough to get you here," meaning the Super Bowl, making a deep playoff run, which Garoppolo has. 49ers players, most notably George Kittle, came out in defense of Trey Lance, had a lot of good things, a lot of favorable things about Lance. But I've got a few points I want to bring up, and I want to get your thoughts on the other side. So here's the big thing that jumped out at me. In the last 7 years, last 7 drafts, there have been 12 quarterbacks taken in the top 3 picks. 11 of the 12 have started at least 7 games their rookie year. The one who didn't was Trey Lance. The average number of games started for those 12 quarterbacks is 12. Trey Lance started 2. Lance was a guy who came out of college, came out of North Dakota State. He started 1 season at North Dakota State. And for anyone who doesn't know, North Dakota State is basically Alabama, Georgia, and Ohio State rolled together in Division I AA in college football. Now it's called the FCS. So he had a great roster around him and was able to dominate the competition. Granted, he played well, and that's why he was drafted high, and he has a lot of physical tools. But let's be honest here. Here's a guy who doesn't have a lot of experience at lower level college football, and he comes to the NFL and he clearly wasn't ready. Montana's right. This is a guy who was brought in to basically be like Pat Mahomes, sit a year and be ready to play. But people forget Pat Mahomes started 30-plus games at Texas Tech before he took over after waiting a year behind Alex Smith. Trey Lance isn't there yet. And then all these things, well, he's got all the physical gifts and all the physical tools. Montana's got a great point here. So much about quarterback is managing the game, executing the offense. For every high-level, amazing 20-yard throw or 15-yard run, you got to hit the check down. You got to make the right read. You got to make the right play. You got to execute Shanahan's offense. And I think Montana's on a real point here. And the fact that so many 49ers players, specifically George Kittle, came out so quick to defend their quarterback, it's got kind of like a little bit protesting too much, right? It's like, hey, look, if they really trusted their guy, no one would have to come out and say anything. When people criticize Russell Wilson or criticize Trevor Lawrence or anyone in that spectrum of quarterback play, you don't see teammates immediately jump on media and saying, hey, you got it wrong. He's a great player. No, because those teammates know who they have. They don't need to defend him so aggressively. Trey Lance clearly wasn't ready to play last year. He didn't get a lot of experience in college at lower level. There's a lot of concerns. I agree with Montana here. I think there's a lot of concern that he is not ready to play going into next season, the 2022 season. What are your thoughts on this? What do you think?
Well, I think an even bigger indicator of what's to come and is Lance ready, okay? If you criticize Trevor Lawrence, per se, with the Jaguars, had not a great year last year, also plays on not a great team, what would people say? Listen, Trevor Lawrence has won a college football national championship. Trevor Lawrence made it to the college football playoff every year of his career. Heisman candidate multiple times. Great player. Those are all things you can say. What do you say about Trey Lance? Yeah, he won some FCS championships. Oh, he beat Jackson State. He beat the Citadel. Like, who's he beating to get there? Beating Alabama, beating Georgia, that's different because about 12, 15 guys on those teams are also in the NFL. There might have been, 2 or 3 people that Lance played that probably also went to the NFL in the FCS. So, like you said, when you stack the deck against Lance and he doesn't show like he's ready, for every 75-yard touchdown, there's a horrible interception that he's thrown. And it doesn't seem like they had a whole lot of confidence in him because they're not starting him they really pulled. They started him when Garoppolo got hurt. He played 2 games. and then they pull him out as soon as Garoppolo is even a semblance of healthy to keep riding out the season. So I'm not confident in Lance. I don't have any information from his college career that would make me believe that, he's going to be a great player, played against great competition. So I agree with Montana too. What has he done other than, have a teammate, which rightfully so would come out and say, hey, he's a really nice guy. He's a good player. You should watch him play sometime. Well, maybe if he got on the field, we could watch him play.
You bring up a great point about how he didn't start even after the injuries. And, there are people that come out and said, well, San Francisco was a good team. San Francisco started 3-5, and then they stuck with Garoppolo. This was a team that was a disappointment halfway through the year, and Garoppolo, among other factors, turned the team around and they made the run in the playoffs. So this was a team that if they had gone to Lance at 3-5, people would have understood it, but Lance clearly wasn't ready. And just one more point I want to make on this. There's a lot of guys that I played with in college that were great athletes and looked really good in the weight room or maybe some practice situations, 7-on-7, things like that. And a lot of players hyped him up. Oh, this guy's great. Look at him. He's big, strong, tall, fast. He can do all these things. But you get him in a football field, right? And you get him in an offense, in a meeting room, in a playbook, and have to go through all those things. It's a whole different game. And a lot of players that were great athletes didn't translate to being good football players because they couldn't execute whatever their assignments were, or they weren't great situationally or things like that. And that's magnified to another level being an NFL quarterback. And that's a lot of what Montana's seeing. And I think that's a lot of what we could see out of the 49ers with Trey Lance this season. So we're going to have to keep an eye on this. But right now, there's a good reason to be concerned out of San Francisco.